All right, so let's get started. So my name is Kristen Chiacha. I'm the Executive Director and Chief Curator of Second Street Gallery. We're a 501c3 nonprofit art space. The gallery is located in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is on Monacan land. Just a bit of housekeeping. This is a Zoom webinar, so you can see and hear us, but we cannot see or hear you. So you can sit back and relax. We'll have an open Q&A session at the end of the talk. So please enter your questions, if you have any, at the Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen. If there's something that makes sense to answer immediately, I'll ask the artist to do that. But in general, we'll try to hold questions until the end. So for tonight's Artist in Conversation, we're joined by Doyle and McCormack for a conversation on their two-person exhibition at Second Street Gallery, Dirty Mirror. Dirty Mirror opened at the gallery in our Dové gallery space on October 1st and will remain on view until November 19th. The exhibition is sponsored by Dan and Rosemary Chiacha. Dirty Mirror is a collaborative exchange between two fiber artists who utilize meticulous, hyper-detailed, and self-taught practices, profoundly rooted in time-honored craft techniques, as tools to bring order to their respective worlds and contend with trauma, mental illness, and addiction. So now a bit about Dance and Caitlin before I hand things over. So Doyle is an Oakland-based textile artist whose work has been informed by the gritty depth of beauty that emerged from the struggling and evolving city after the crack epidemic in the 80s and 90s. Dance heralds a 13-year creative background in ceramic sculpture and hand-building pottery. She transitioned creatively to textile art during her undergraduate studies at San Francisco State University. Dance served as vice president of Tapestry Weavers West and is a member of the American Tapestry Alliance and the Textile Arts Council at the De Young Museum in San Francisco. Her work has been displayed at the Legion of Honor Museum, the De Young Museum in San Francisco, and at the San Jose Museum of Quilts and Textiles. She's also been featured in fiber art publications such as Textile Fiber Forum magazine, American Tapestry Alliance's Coda magazine, Fiber Art Now magazine, and the Untitled magazine. Dance has completed residencies at the Textile Arts Center, the Museum of Arts and Design, and Bemis Center for Contemporary Arts. Dance is currently an MFA candidate at the California College of Arts in San Francisco. Then moving on to Caitlin McCormack is a Philadelphia-based fiber artist, sculptor, and art educator. Caitlin received a BFA from the University of the Arts in Philadelphia in 2010 and has studied under master ceramicist Margarita Hagen since 2019. Caitlin's works have been displayed across the US and internationally in solo and group exhibitions at the Mutter Museum, the Taubman Museum of Art, Mesa Contemporary, Rhodes Contemporary, Hashimoto Contemporary, the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, and Spring Break Art Show in New York City. Her work has been featured in numerous publications, including Juxtaposed, Hyperallergic, Smithsonian, The Guardian, Fiber Art Now, and Bust Magazine. In addition, her sculptures were the subject of an interview with Jim Cotter for Articulate on PBS. Caitlin has held teaching positions at Husson College of Art and Design and the Philadelphia Academy of Fine Arts, both of which are located in Philadelphia. She was the recipient of a Joseph Robert Foundation grant in 2020. So thank you both for being part of this tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So I am very curious, first of all, to get us started tonight, is how the two of you met. Were you familiar with each other's work first, or did you meet and then find out that the two of you were artists? So how did you meet?
Can I start? Can I start?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta open it up with the fact that I became aware of Caitlin's work while I hadn't even moved to New York yet. And she had a show at Hashimoto Contemporary in San Francisco. When I say the city, that's what I mean. And I had work and I missed it, and I messaged her. She's probably who's this? I'm so sorry I missed your show. And so anyway, go ahead. Now you can take it from here. This will be like a tag team.
Okay, yeah, we'll tag team it. Okay. And also my loud cat just walked in, so it might get a little hairy for a second. But so yeah, I became aware of Dance's work, I think through Instagram initially. I'm pretty sure Erin Riley, the tapestry artist, had shared Dance's work, and I was just like thinking about it nonstop, and kind of still am. Dance's work is profoundly impactful to me, and so when that like message you're referring to came to me, it wasn't out of the blue. I was like, oh my god, this artist that I deeply and profoundly respect is getting in touch with me. This, what do I do? You know, and then I guess we met in person for the first time at spring break
2018, right?
2020. It was
2020. No, it was 2019.
no,
So it was
well, you messaged me in 2019, but then we met in person
right.
on like, I'm pretty sure literally March 6th, 2020. Like, you're one of the last people I met for the first time in person.
Yeah. Right before the whole world shut down. Right.
Yeah. And we just kind of stayed in touch throughout the pandemic, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where this concept came from, I guess.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, she's, you know, she's the crocheter. She like does all of this amazing sculptural work. So it was like, you know, I was like, yeah, I was just really happy to meet her. And I was like, I'm the one who randomly messaged you. And you're like, oh, you are. So
I love that. I love, you know, spring break was kind of the last hurrah for a lot of people in 2020 because it was literally right before the whole world shut down and everything. It was, you know, everyone went out, we did this art fair, and then everything shut down. So I'm glad you're able to meet in person at that event before that did happen. And that's actually interesting too, because you came to Second Street Gallery through a call for artists and exhibition proposal that we held. And it's funny because Caitlin, I've been following your work for as long as I think I've had Instagram, for many, many years. And so I was very surprised and flattered and very excited. I think when I got the proposal, and then I looked up Dance's work, and I was like, oh my God, I know this work too. And you know, so I was just thrilled that you had come to Second Street Gallery that way through a call for artists. I'm curious what made you decide to propose a 2-person exhibition, and what you were thinking when you put that proposal, the two of you together. What sparked that? Was it the conversation at spring break, or did it just kind of develop from there? Or
someone that I had worked with in the past, Marina Granger, encouraged me to submit to that call for entries. And I was trying to think of something that would be really impactful and appropriate. And then I was like, I would love to do a show with Dance Doyle. And she would probably never say yes to this because I am such a loser. And it worked out. And I really couldn't believe it. I was just like, all right, so you're like willing to get into this disastrous situation with me somehow. And because I just, that's how I view myself and how I'm situated in the world. And it was just like getting to know Dance throughout, you know, the generation of the proposal and writing everything. You know, it was super collaborative, and it was just like this has to happen. It makes so much sense. And you know, the more we wrote together, the more it was like we discovered these little intricate commonalities that we have been, you know, nurturing in our bodies of work, especially the work that's responding to the pandemic, or at least like the way that's impacted our processes. And I don't know, it was just really like kind of Kismet-esque. So I don't know, Dance, is that just like totally off base?
No, I mean, I literally never thought you were anything close to a loser. Actually the opposite. I know, because we had talked a couple times, like, wouldn't it be rad if we had a show together? I'm just like, you were keeping your eye out, like, and I was keeping my eye out. And then Second Street, you were like, hey, let's apply here. And I was like, let's do it. Like, I didn't even, like, I just wanted to be in, you know, a show with you. And I was like, fine, let's do this. And I don't know. Yeah. And that's how we kind of, I wrote parts of it, but like Caitlin was like, she had obviously written more proposals than I had in the past, because you were just like, bam, bam. Even though I had all of like, you were like, send me this, 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 and this, and I could get it to you within seconds. The proposal part was really more educational for me because, I haven't written that many. I have written, but you obviously have written way more of those. So it was an educational experience, and I'm really grateful. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. And I love hearing about these connections that you discovered along the way of working on the proposal together. And one thing that I thought was interesting too, learning about both of your backgrounds, was that you both came into fiber art. You were ceramicists first. Is that correct? You started more in the ceramics area, or you came from that, or am I making that up? Or you did not start with fiber art. How about that?
Dance, you
Okay.
definitely did, right?
You're talking to Caitlin, right?
Both
She's
of you.
talking to both of us.
Okay, you start, Caitlin.
So that's really interesting. So for my first instinct is to be like, I wasn't really doing clay. I wasn't working with clay initially, but actually in a sense I was, because I have a background in illustration, and specifically 3D illustration, where I was building these tiny miniature sets and these figures, and then I would photograph them and digitally manipulate them as minimally as possible to sort of create like single frames from stop motion animated films. And I would posit those as, commercial illustrations or editorial imagery. So that's really, that's what I was doing right out of college. And there was a lot of clay involved in that process. But in terms of like specifically ceramics, I started working with a person that I consider to be a mentor, named Margarita Hagen, who is a Philadelphia-based ceramic artist who just makes the most incredible work I've ever seen. She's amazing. And she's taught me a lot about working with clay, and it has informed my fiber practice kind of tremendously. So yeah, that's the extent of my experience with clay. But Dance, you have way more of a ceramics background.
Oh, well, I had my hands in clay at like the age of 8, and I couldn't get enough. So I was always, in college, I majored in ceramics. I was a transfer student, so I was like trying to find my own way. That's why I didn't go to university anyway, except for some other reasons and grades and stuff. But I took ceramics was my major, and I went into the program, and they were like, and I just, mind you, I came from like a really hand building, slip cast molding, like viscosity transfers, putting photographs onto clay, like all this experimental stuff. And I walked into their program, and they're like, you can only throw pots, like at least for the first, I only have 2 years there. I was like, this isn't happening. I learned how to do that in high school. So I just said, forget this. And I was like, any other class. I have to take a studio arts class. Anyway, photography was closed, painting was closed, mixed media painting was closed, printmaking was closed, everything was closed, except for one spot in textiles.
Oh, wow.
Like, can I add this? They're like, sure. And that's how that began.
It was a happy accident.
I was hungry for an outlet. I think looking back in hindsight, it's always 2020, but like, I think I was really hungry for some kind of other outlet. And that's how it was. And yeah, Candace Crocker was running the program at the time. So I really loved her guidance.
No, that's fantastic. So you kind of went into it by accident, just because it was, if something else had been open, perhaps you had become this master of another medium.
Yeah, actually, when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, like what if I had never found tapestry? Like, where would I be today?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't want to think about it. And it's funny because back then, if you said, hey, you'd be working on a loom for a living, I'd be like, what's a loom?
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of where I came from, just not knowing enough. But yeah, I mean, I kind of knew what a loom was, but.
Mm-hmm. And then how did your work evolve from that beginning when you were just, starting out into?
Well, the first thing I wove, oh, go ahead. The first thing I wove was like 12 feet long. They were like, here, this is how you warp. And then they walked away from me on the warp board and they came back to me like an hour and a half later and I had over warped on the board. And they were like, oh, I thought you would have stopped at least 200 ends ago. And so I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Well, you're going to weave it. We're not going to waste this material.
Yeah.
So we took it over to the loom, and they taught me how to at least dress the loom. So I got that from San Francisco State, and like some shibori and other skills that came in. But we were doing at that point I was plain weave. I literally that piece I started off in the winter, and then I ended up in the spring. I went from very dark colors to like these bright explosive colors, and it's called the Purge. It's on my website at dancedoyle.com. That one, I have it there because it's like the sculptural one. It was like my introduction to textiles, but like I had 1 foot still in the sculptural realm. And I'm actually, since it's, both feet in the textiles world for a long time, my foot is starting to move in the other direction again. So we'll see what comes of that.
And then Caitlin, I remember when I first started following you and your work, it was very different from what we're seeing. So I'm curious to hear on your end as well, how your work has evolved to where it's ended up now at Second Street. So maybe we can, yes.
Oh yeah, I have slides too.
Yes. Funny, I should ask that, right?
I don't know how these got there. Wow. So I have this background in illustration, and it's hard to explain this in not too many words, but both of my grandparents passed away pretty quickly, one after the other. And my grandmother passed away after my grandfather, and she struggled with dementia and kind of forgot that he had passed away every 10 to 15 minutes. So someone had to be there to remind her, and she had to go through the experience of grieving his passing every time she got out of bed and didn't know where he was. So it really, I had dealt with a lot of loss throughout my life up until then, but this was really strenuous, and it was a something that my family really had to contend with. So there was a lot of time just kind of spent trying to pass the hours. And I started working with this string that I found in her sewing room, this cotton thread, very tiny gauge for doily making, because she and her sisters and her mother had made doilies. There's like a doily legacy in my family, as it turns out, on both sides. And I just started working kind of mindlessly and meditatively with the tiny hook, like this size or smaller. All of these were her materials. The string was stained with age, and I realized that after working on these like amorphous shapes, that they kind of resembled bone tissue viewed through a microscope. It's very lace-like, but also very organic and unpredictable. And I was like, all right, maybe I'll make some osteological specimens. And I love drawing bones with, my background in illustration. I did a lot of anatomical, drawing. And I just kind of intuitively started making these shapes. And they started to turn into pieces where I would, stiffen. I would apply like layer after layer of a mixture of fabric stiffeners and glues and starches to the material. And it would achieve this desired level of hardness. And then I would sew the individual bits together, kind of like a marionette, and add more glue. And they would take this shape that was kind of weirdly brittle yet sturdy, and they were positionable, and it became this outlet for me to kind of archive traumatic memories and also sort of exercise that trauma. It's a very therapeutic and necessary aspect of my life as a person with PTSD and various other mental and emotional impediments. So I've been doing this ever since. It's been, over a decade, and the work has evolved. I've started to incorporate more either commercially dyed or studio prepared dyes and pigments with natural forage materials. And I've opened up the palette from this kind of binary black and white to something more vibrant, which is way more fulfilling. And I don't know why I restricted myself for so long. I'm starting to incorporate more like abstract shapes, things, flora, plant detritus, reminiscent of things I find on hikes, which is something that has helped me and a lot of people I know get through the pandemic. There's, fungi, which I'm, perpetually fascinated with. And I've started to work with these larger scale, more husk-like lace figures that are, more of an exoskeleton, like this piece here, which I actually exhibited this piece shortly before our show opened in New York at Spring Break Art Show with field projects in a booth curated by Jacob Rhodes and Chris Racchianello. This is a picture of it right here. It was like this pseudo scientific institutional museum exhibition, kind of pertaining to moral panics and frenzies throughout the 20th century. It was really fun to work on. But this show right here, Spring Break Art Show, which is a fair in New York, that's the place where Dance and I had met in person for the first time a year before in 2020. This is kind of more of an example of how I'm becoming more object-based and sort of moving away from the skeletal specimens in some capacity. I just think it's a lot more fun to try to render these, more dimensional forms and not restrict myself so much. Like I said, I don't really know why I adhered like very defiantly to the skeletal work, but I was bound to get bored at some point, and I'm glad that I'm kind of letting myself experiment.
No, I found myself, which is very strange for me to say, I love all this color in this work. So, I really like seeing how the works evolved with the color. And I think, it goes, I think yours and Dance's work, they just play off of each other so well with the vibrant colors. We were talking about the first slide at the very beginning, like, oh, those two, they go so well together, and you would work completely independently in your own studios across the country. So that's super, super interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm curious with both of you, how you plan a piece. Do you do sketches or any preparatory drawings or anything, or Dance's in her studios, so perhaps she can show us even what.
I mean, like, especially, the last question you asked, I didn't explain, like, I learned a week's worth of tapestry in my undergrad. So that was like a circle, some striped lines, and a triangle.
Wow.
So after that, it was like, I was so focused. I was like, and I did not want to learn fashion patterns. After that, it was like, I just want to do this. And so I graduated the next year. And so life happened and I had to show up for life, and some things happened. But back in, 2012, I started weaving again, this one in the background, the one that's,
Okay.
And then, I started weaving again, and I was like, okay, this is what I have to do. And I didn't start showing my work until 2015, but I had to make it shaped. I wanted it to get out of that rectangle form as soon as humanly possible. And so everything, I've done so far has been shaped. But as far as planning, I always just draw, like, it takes me a while, right? So before the drawing, I'm memorizing what things look like in my head. Sometimes I'll take photos, and the little part of that photo will end up in my head with this design. And then I just sit down and, like, I'll, there's a person falling.
Oh yeah.
Closer. It's like the big city scene in the background. And I'll just draw it and then I'll pin it to the top of my loom. So like the castle, I'm working on a Gilmore right now. It doesn't have a castle. So I have to find a good place to put it, or I just need to look at it and then like, go, okay. And which is fine because I've eyed it the whole time, but it's exciting because when I do it that, I've never learned with a cartoon. So I never really needed to, nobody ever, I didn't have that. It was not in that setting. So, if I wanted to do something, it would have to be based off of one of my drawings. If I do the little one, it worked the first time. So it's like, it's like I've unwoven things and then woven them back. Like, it's not like I make, but
Oh, wow.
everybody kind of, corrects stuff while they're making it and stuff. So, it's been a life changer for me. I mean, it pulled me out of my own depression. And it's pulled me out of many depressions since. So it's not like it's an ongoing thing. So
Oh, absolutely.
I relate to Caitlin in that way. Not that way alone, but one of those ways we relate is that.
Yeah.
Huge
No,
part of the show.
No, it's a major theme of the show. And, that's something, I guess kind of jumping ahead, since you do touch on this dance, is that both of, all of the work in the show it's very labor intensive work that's very physical. And you're oftentimes addressing very difficult, very, deeply personal issues. And, how do you maintain this, this life art balance, and do you find it necessary to take periods of rest? And because I imagine that it would be sometimes, you just need to recover both physically and mentally from the work that you're doing. So is there anything that, do you have any self-care rituals or anything that you need to, are you just working all the time and just like me, I just work through everything and ignore it and just, being busy is what helps me, and just always being occupied. But I don't know how it is for either. I'm curious to
I
hear.
think the only way to like describe it is like when I finish a big piece, like even bigger than the one that's on the screen right now, like the ones that like Renata that you have on the wall.
Mhm.
It's like I have like this mini postpartum depression. It's like it's a baby, it's like almost like it's like I have to step away and breathe. I have to step away and breathe, and I have to like collect my thoughts, and I have to let the next process begin. And that sometimes can take a month or two. But it's not necessary, and the times are getting shorter and shorter between tapestries. So I don't know, like taking care of yourself is number one though.
Yeah.
Seriously.
There's like a frankness that I'll say what I'm about to say with that I think is emboldened by just isolation during the pandemic. But I don't have a self-care routine. I work, and the way that I feel when I'm not working is symptomatic of the way I push myself. And I am desperately in need of a self-care like emergency plan, but I don't have one as of yet, and it is slowly eroding whatever is left of me that isn't just totally hinged on my identity as it's established through my work. I mean, that's like a really kind of it's not it's not a fun thing to admit, but it is the truth.
No. And I think that, maybe that's why I'm so drawn to your work or whatnot, because that sounds very much like myself in my own career. And part of my ask is I need a self-care routine. What do other people do? How do they function and when they're not working? And I can definitely relate to that when you're, the taking a break from work, you feel like you just need to immediately get back to your work. And so, I think you're definitely not alone in that. I think a lot of creative types, a lot of people just in general, these are things that we deal with. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I know so many people can relate to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So,
I mean, if somebody chooses to be an artist, it's because like that art, doing it is like a way of breathing for them. I mean, like it's like it's not like going into like film or something. I mean, like you're not, the hard work is there on both, but like, sometimes the payoff doesn't come till if at all. And sometimes it does, but it takes time. It's like, it's not like one of those things where you're making bank right away, so it's like it's a labor. I mean, it's like this labor of love. I mean, whether you're a painter or you're, you create contemporary art through tapestry or through crocheting. It's one of those things that's like, that keeps you, it's like, it's grounding for me. It's like, if sometimes I just, I'll feel lost coming to the lane, I'll sit down. I'm like, okay, the world is okay. The world is okay. I got this, it's centering me. And the fact that like, this is what I'm best at.
Yeah.
Like I'm best at creating things. So, I'm glad I picked this career path because it's making me happy. So I was going to become a real estate agent.
Oh, really?
Little known fact. Yeah. I was about to send my credentials into Sacramento to get my California real estate board exam. And I was like, but I never tried. I'm going to kick myself for the rest of my life if I don't do this. So that was like in 2015. And then I started showing my work, and
I love that story. I love hearing that. And I mean, Caitlin, were you always thinking that you were going to be an artist, or were you thinking,
No,
no?
I don't know what I was like. I grew up really poor. And I don't know if I've ever had a vision of what my future will be. I'm just kind of always like holding on to some seed pod that's flying through the air and just kind of hoping I land in a garden or, onto some squirrel's back and like, I'm not like, I don't know. I know I knew that I had to do something creative. I am just an abysmal retail employee, and I've worked in restaurants. Like, I don't know. I don't have any skills. Like I can cook. I've cooked, but I have to make stuff with my hands. I have to. There is no option. It's just, there is no option at this point. And I know that I'm like, I understand that I'm very privileged right now to be able to sustain my lifestyle with, this career. I'm open to, supplementing. I do teach. I've been a college professor before, kind of for the experience. I'm open to other career paths, but for now I'm just kind of like, this is what I do. It comes so naturally and it feels so intrinsic. That's just kind of what I'm doing. Dance, I would buy a house from you. If you were
Thank you.
I would buy a house from you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'd find you the right one.
Yeah, I know you would. Yeah. Yeah.
I would take you on tours of many homes until you found the right one.
Yeah, that's all I need.
No, it's like my heart wasn't in it though. I was always an artist, but I don't think like from the time I was born, I was never encouraged to pursue that as a career.
Yeah.
Like it was just kind of like, well, dance, be practical, fun. And I listened for too long. I really did. I listened for too long. And it's always been my calling. Like, this is where I belong. It's like, I'm a weirdo. I need to be where the weird people are. And I finally found Caitlin. So
yes. No, I mean, that's so funny. I had discovered art history in college. I didn't know that it was a career. It was, art was not ever something that was encouraged. My father was a chemical engineer. My mother was an emergency room nurse. And,
wow.
Art and being an art historian or a curator was not something, it's like, well, what kind of job are you going to have? But I think that if you love what you're doing and, you can find a way to make a living doing what, we've been lucky to be able to find, our livelihood and doing what we actually like. So yeah. So, another question I'm very curious about, I know you were looking at each other's work, but what other artists are you looking at right now?
right now.
Oh boy,
A lot.
good Lord. Jeez, so many.
I love it. Sometimes you ask this question and people are like, "Ah, I'm not looking at anything." And I'm like, what? So
I wouldn't even know where to start.
I
Go ahead.
like Rose Nestler. Rose Nestler's work is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Rose Nestler is one of my favorite artists ever at this point. Like, I'm just constantly blown away by her work. It's amazing. It's hilarious and impeccably crafted. And you can't stop thinking about it. She's amazing.
and for people that are tuning in and aren't familiar with her work, what medium is she working?
She makes large textile, or they're kind of mixed media, but heavily textile based, like kind of soft sculptures. There's a lot of upholstery and sort of there's a body horror element mixed with furniture, and there's like a domestic object synthesized with like a hand with long fake nails. Like it's packaging. It's just like this like response to consumerism and the body and the home, and it really resonates with me, especially in terms of the pandemic, being trapped in your house and like kind of feeling like you and your furniture are merged into this amorphous Cronenberg object. It's just incredible. She's really amazing.
I think some of mine are like Zach Hackman and Ben Minnen and Sarah Zapata, obviously Sophia Norette, obviously Aaron Kelly. There are more. Forgive me if you're watching this, and I totally love your work, and I love your work because I've been stalking you on Instagram, and I'm not mentioning your name right now. But Poppy Delta Dawn, I really enjoy her work. I don't know. There's just a lot going on, and I mean, I don't look at myself as like somebody who's just a fiber artist, because like I work in other mediums, and I've just been concentrating on this. It's been like, this obsession of mine for the last like 14 years. And so, I mean, it's like, I don't just follow the weavers. Like I follow everybody, because I'm very familiar with the materials. I have a solid understanding of their materials because I used to work with them myself, and I can go back at any time. So, I watch a whole variety of people, what they do, different artists.
So Dance, what other mediums do you work in? You mentioned that right now you're super focused on fiber, but what else are you doing these
well, I mean, going back to ceramics, obviously, I am about to take a workshop in neon. So I'm going to work with neon, and I have some designs for that. So I have to like ask, how that's going to go back, but it's going to happen. So, I'll be like, can I make this? It's a design. And they might go, not really. Or they might go, yeah, but it's going to take some time. And I'll be like, okay, cool, let's do this. I'd like to work with other things besides soft things. I mean, I'd like to work with metal at some point. And I also like during my residency at the Bemis Center for the Contemporary Arts, I started painting for the first time in a really long time. I'm talking like decades. And so, I really, really liked it. And so but this is like one of those things where it's like, if I'm working on a tapestry, that is all my mind is assigned to. Like, that's it. I got it. I make it because I want to put my signature, it's like, it's my focus, and I can't spread the focus out onto 10 different things at once. Either I'm here or I'm not here, that's just kind of the way my mind handles things.
Well,
That's all.
Yeah. And I should mention too, that if anyone has any questions, they're welcome to pop them into the Q&A. If there's something that we haven't yet haven't yet touched on or whatnot. I know I had some more questions. So what do you have? Did the two of you have, the show will sadly come down on the last day is November 19th. Are you thinking about, do you have plans to work together in the future? Are you looking something else to do together? Are you looking, what's on the horizon, either together or independently?
We have something in the works. I mean, we've been talking about collaborating.
Yeah, we have I'm excited about that. I have a very like Virginia heavy autumn where there's the show in Charlottesville, and then in about 2 weeks I'm going to be doing a residency in Winchester. I guess it's northwestern Virginia, at the Peter Bulla Foundation with my collaborator Kat Riles, which I'm pretty excited about. But yeah, I'm hoping that Dance and I can kind of realize this thing we talked about when we were speaking during the right after install, I guess, at Second Street.
Yeah.
So what do you have going on, Dance?
Oh, whoa, sorry, it's sort of yeah, I mean, we were talking about doing like, think of a building and the surface of the building being a tapestry, but in the windows you see something else, kind of like that, but like not like a building per se. Like it'll be 3-dimensional and sculptural and full of hidden corners and places for Caitlin's creatures to dwell and be alive in. And so we're working on that. It's in process, but I think also both of us are really busy. We both have other things that we're trying to get done as well. So it's not going to happen right away, but when it does, you better be there.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. So.
And Caitlin, do you have work up in another show right now? Am I misremembering, or did it just happen, or?
Oh no.
Even another.
Oh no. I don't know.
Were you in a group show recently that I saw?
My partner can hear me not remembering what's going on in my life. Like he's criticizing me from the other room. I have.
Go ahead.
I have work in New Orleans at Mortal Museum Gallery. Yeah, I'm going to be doing. I'm going to have a piece that I'm working on right now, present in their booth at Scope in Miami during Basel. Which their booth is always this like.
Their booth is always one of my favorites. I am very much looking forward. I am very lucky that I get to attend Scope and Art Week this year, so I will be sure they are on my to-do list of places I need to check out. So,
have you ever met them in person?
I think last time I was there, I may have introduced myself to someone, but I'll be sure again this time. We were talking about you on the Artist Talk. So
they're really, really nice people. So
yeah. So that's fantastic. Do you have? I mean, I
relate to Caitlin for a sec, because I like sometimes I'll have 3 things in the country, and I'll be like, where are they again? Like, keeping track of everything. I have to write it down. Where I send them, how long was the show, when is it going to get sent back, what's the routing number, things like that. If it gets sent back, if it doesn't sell. So right now I'm just like completely focused on impressing the people here at school. So there might be some shows coming up. I've applied to a few things, but I won't be involved in any residencies until I'm out. I won't be applying for. I got accepted to McCall in North Carolina before I got here, but I applied during the pandemic, so I didn't know whether I was going to even be accepted to grad school, and then it like really worked out, and so they told me, hey, you got in, we got to figure out when you're going to be here, and I was like, oh, sorry, maybe I'll have to apply next year. Sorry, my bad. So I can't wait for that to happen, for those things to happen. So I know that I'm going to be busy at least for the next decade.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure time will fly when you're in the program and then before you know it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just got so much work in front of me. It's like ridiculous. So
Absolutely.
looking forward to every moment of it.
Mhm.
All 10 years.
All 10 years. Tick tock,
Yeah.
tick tock.
So I've been talking a lot and asking a lot of questions. Is there anything you want to ask each other? I'm sorry to put you
No.
on the spot. I just thought of that question. But
What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
My favorite ice cream
I love
flavor.
it.
So yeah,
He's gonna
let's
say Rocky
look at
Road.
these questions. No, I hate. So I like. I had an Italian grandmother who put walnuts in everything. There's walnuts in Rocky Road, right?
I think
Like,
so, yeah.
I know that walnuts are good for you, but they're just they're bitter. There's no, I don't want a walnut in my ice cream. So I don't want Rocky Road. I might be mistaken about what the contents of Rocky Road are, but I think there's walnuts. I think
Chocolate ice cream, marshmallows, and walnuts, I believe.
walnuts. Yeah, I don't want walnuts. I think cookies and cream. I'm vegan, so ice cream is like severely the experience of ice cream is not the same as usual. But I think even like cookies and cream is a pretty incredible way. What's your favorite? What do you like?
I like chocolate, but I like the soy. I like the soy. Yeah, because I can't. I mean, I used to like milk. I'm not vegan, but like I eat weird stuff that doesn't fall in the animal categories. So, but only sometimes. But chocolate ice cream is enough for me. Yeah, doesn't even have to be double chocolate fudge brownie. Just chocolate.
Yeah,
Vegan ice cream has come a long way. So there's a lot.
Sure has.
I don't
Dance
know.
up.
Go ahead.
I want to hear about your dog.
Oh, Olive.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I don't have any kids, and I don't think I'll be having any kids. But I do have the best little girl named Olive, and she is my little co-conspirator. Let me see. There she is, sleeping on my ball of yarn on my couch.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's visible enough. There we go.
Yeah.
She's a Italian Greyhound mixed with a Chihuahua. She's got tons of personality. The one thing is like she's very intuitive. She's very intuitive. She knows like if I'm upset and all of that. She just, and I've had her since she was 3 months old. So it's just like, I don't know. I love her. I love her to death. And yeah, and she, she's I don't really bring her to the studio if I'm out because I have a studio at home and it's hard enough working there. It was so easy when I didn't have a dog though. I was like, working and working and working and working. And then I got a dog and it was like, but you're going to take me out, right? You're going to take me out. So working at a studio and leaving her to sleep all day is fine by me. So, but I take her on huge walks, like 6-mile ones. Yeah, she's my little love. I love her. I wish she was here right now so I could show you.
Yeah.
So Dance, we have a question that just popped up from an audience member for you. So it's from an anonymous attendee. They say, Dance, looking at your big tapestries, how narrative are they? And does each one tell a specific story? And what do you hope viewers understand or feel looking at them?
That's a good question. They had a specific story for me, but they're just really out there for people to get either strength from or to, catch their interest. Granada was about mental health. There's the Tribune Tower, which is a landmark in Oakland. I'm marching through the streets the rain is pouring down and it's going into the drains, into this abstractness. And I'm marching through the streets naked and I just pulled the pin out of a grenade. And it's like the beginning of it exploding in my hand because I'm going to take everybody with me. That was kind of like, well, obviously I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to do it in my tapestry. And that one was like, I loved making that one. The top part is made out of like little like mermaid colored halter top I wore in my 20s. And so I just rotary cut it because it had sequences on it, and I just covered the top. It's hard to see, but you can see little like green twinklies up there. That's that. Let's see, Martyr from the Lower Bottoms, that's about somebody specific. It's a lot of people love, it's a yellow, yeah. It's about my best friend growing up. He had, 3 brothers, and their dad was like just dead to them. They don't, never came around. But their mother, good Lord, very like crazy intelligence, like could have done anything, but she kind of sacrificed what she wanted because she had to raise her boys, and she was like a second mom to me. So that kind of, this one's touring, but it's going to her eventually, I think. I don't know if it never sells, but I have my friend, part of a 2-headed bird, and I like to dive into the urban mystic because that's where my head is usually. And it's just about this 2-headed bird. And you're always a part of somebody, even if they're dead to you. And he's singing. And it's, it's kind of powerful. It's got this family dynamic. Yeah. And so then other things like 3 a.m., which I don't think only on my website you see a picture of. That one is about a woman who's shooting heroin down in the city at 3 a.m. And in the middle of her high, she's floating above the city, still sitting on the toilet. And she's moving towards the steps of City Hall and bringing her issues there. And it was a comment on the city's not providing safe shoot up spots because what we're I'm a big fan of harm reduction rather than like absolutely no help for addicts at all, because it's obvious that comes from stigma, right? If somebody had cancer, which is a disease, they would be like, please let me take you to the hospital, you need some kind of help. But if it's addict, it's just like, well, just let them die, I don't know, it's like that was that. But it's one of my favorites. What else? 6 Feet High. Do you guys have a picture of that? 6 Feet High was, I wove that right after Trump was elected. But it's also autobiographical. It depicts a woman who's standing 6 feet over her own grave. And she's drinking a 40 of Country Club, and she's belligerent, and she's half naked in the graveyard. And the writing on the side says, well, okay, it's like, I always thought, in our 20s, especially in my 20s, I had these bright feathers, right? And I was like vibrant and artistic, and in naivety, you're like, I'm gonna conquer the world, and then there's things that happen, you kind of dulls you out because life kind of hits you in the face really a couple times, and so that's how I felt, especially with the fact that I had quit drinking myself almost 13 years ago. So what the writing says is, my feathers fell off some blocks ago, but fuck it, the sky's the limit. So that's kind of what that was about. It was autobiographical, but I loved the weaving process. If somebody loves the fact that there's this strong, emotionally intelligent woman who is just not anymore, I'm not walking out of the house with clothes on, I am going to have a drink, I am going to tell you what I think, then that's great too. And it's shaped, which is killer because everything else is going to be just as shaped now. So that's really exciting for me. This was at that time the most shaped one that I had ever done. There's a lot of slit tapestries, so there's these little, you can put your hand through to the wall behind, and little places, because I don't like dovetailing. So it's just something I don't do, unless it's absolutely necessary in one part. But yeah, it's, and the more abstract ones, people love those, take what they want from them. But yeah, and this is Tune In, and I did this at Bemis Center for Contemporary Arts in Omaha during that residency, and this was this is fall of 2020. It was the end of 2020, and I just was having an emotional response to it, and it could be anybody walking through the streets. And I always love to depict women as these larger than life figures, not an ornament or somebody's like arm candy, or somebody who's, supporting the person or making the person look better who's next to them. I like to be just them. And like, I like to depict women that way. And so she's marching through the streets. There's a reference to San Pablo Avenue in Oakland and in Berkeley. It goes through, it's a long street. It goes through all of these way. So it's kind of like a represent type of thing. But everything else is just, I put the little bit of sky at the top. It was all free form too. I never had any patterns for it. I never like put any cartoon there. I didn't have any plans for the inner part of the light blue and the teal. It just was free form.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Well, as we're running, we're getting close to the end of the hour, but I'm curious, Caitlin Dance was just talking about some of the text in her work, and I'm seeing, there's text now in the pillows that are in the exhibition at 2nd Street. What is the narrative behind it? Are those words autobiographical, or where are you sourcing?
They are autobiographical. I started, implementing text in my work, definitely in accordance with the pandemic, timeline wise. I think initially it was because I just had text of like almost exclusively text-based relationships with the people in my life. I live with my partner, but I had one friend. I made friends with a fiber artist and chef named Kiki Aranita, and we exclusively were text friends. We had never met in person. So I think I had words and letters and literal text on the brain. And it just felt really natural to start incorporating that into my work. And these specific cushions are kind of like, I jokingly call them just like traumatic pillows, because I think they are also a response to the pandemic, with, feeling myself merging with the contents of my house and decorative domestic items, no longer bearing this like joyous sort of fun disposition for me, but instead being these like reminders of trauma and isolation and being stuck in a house with your demons. That's what the text on the pillows specifically relates to moments in my life.
No, I definitely think that this is something a lot of people during the pandemic, where suddenly we're locked down in our homes and forced to look around at our surroundings. And it wasn't just background noise. It was, you were thinking about this more. I can't tell you how many. I probably donated 10 boxes of clothes to a local organization during the pandemic because I had to get them out of the house. They had bad memories and there was some sort of trauma, and I had kind of pushed them aside. And I was like, now, this is my new life. I'm want to move forward. I'm not in that place anymore. So why am I holding on to all of these objects from the past? So I definitely can relate to this work in that respect. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you both for sharing your work and all the stories behind it and everything. It's so fantastic to have you both in the exhibition. And I can't wait to see what both of you do next, and what you do next together. I'll definitely come. So yeah, the exhibition is on view until the 19th of November. That's the last day, and the gallery is open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 5. So if you haven't already seen the show in person, come on by. There's still time. And then there's a lot of, it's now time for my commercial break, where we talk about some of the other things that are going on at 2nd Street Gallery. We have another exhibition on view in the adjacent gallery with Josh Dorman, and we're doing a call for writing for that exhibition. So we have an open call for short poetry or prose in response to the works in those exhibitions, or in that exhibition. You can find all the info on our website. We also have coming up a fundraiser with Michael Birch Pierce. They are another fantastic fiber artist from Richmond, and they are doing embroidered portraits live in the gallery in the middle of your exhibition coming up on the 13th of November. And then we have also coming up Intro to Needle Felting with local fiber artists to be a month. So we're very excited about that on the 18th. So all of this and more upcoming programs, all the info is on our website. So that's all from me. Thank you. Is there any final words? Don't let me have the last word. Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's been
thank you.
Thank you.
Great experience, and you guys really took care of us. So
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
really,
And-
really appreciate it.
And thanks for doing this conversation tonight. I love hearing you both talk about your work, and now I know what your favorite ice cream is. So
Very important for me. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.